This is TWiT.
Sunday morning, before CES really opens, AMD dropped a whole family of mobile CPUs. You know, the kind of top of the line AMD Ryzen 7 3750H. It's a 35-watt performance part. The 3700U. It's a 15-watt 4-core 8-thread. Those are actually both both 4-core 8-thread CPUs. 2.3 gigahertz base, 4 gigahertz in turbo, packing Vega 10 graphics, i.e. 10 Vega compute units. The Ryzen 5 is the Ryzen, basically the H parts are 35 watts, the U parts are 15 watts, and I'll stop talking about wattages. You know,
hey, again, wattages matter for notebook.
Absolutely, but there's only so many times people can hear me say 35 watt and 15 watt back to back before they start throwing things at their computer or their phone. But you know, again, 4-core, 8-core, 4-core, 8-thread parts at the Ryzen 5 level, but with 8 GPU core parts and running at 3.7 gigahertz max. Ryzen 3, I thought this was fascinating. They have 2 parts, and one of them is a 4-core, 4-thread part with either 6 or 3 GPU cores running at a max of 3.5 gigahertz in turbo mode. And I was really impressed. That's aggressive. And if these parts are as power efficient as I think Ryzen mobile parts can be, this is going to be interesting to watch Intel deal with, because the idea of having a Core i3, a Ryzen 3 part that is offering that many cores is going to offer a pretty noticeable performance advantage, I think, in general computing, especially at the price points parts like that usually tend to show up on.
Yeah, we're used to seeing premium laptops on the Intel side that are quad core or dual core hyper-threaded parts. So to see 8-threaded parts at what I can only imagine will be a competitive price to the laptop manufacturers to implement is interesting. I know one of the things that I saw at the show at Asus was a all AMD gaming laptop series where they have the processor, they have discrete graphics from their RX series, but I think, like you were saying, even for productivity, you're taking like a mobile workstation or just general productivity device with you. Right. As long as it's power gating aggressively and you have a really good longevity, a 35-watt part is considered kind of like your high end typically even now, but 15 watts, especially those, the 3500U, the 3300U, we could see those in some smaller form factors perhaps, and sort of a similar thing to what you can currently find on the market with those ubiquitous Core i5 thin and light laptops. So definitely interesting, and especially because you have the integration of the Vega graphics cores. So the laptop I took to CES, it's like the generic laptop of today where it's some sort of Core i5 processor. This one's Coffee Lake. It's got like the MX series GPU from NVIDIA in it. And it's marketed as a productivity device. It's like a thin and light business laptop, essentially. Right. But this opens up some interesting possibilities for sure.
One of the claims AMD made when they announced the mobile parts was that those onboard Vega graphics were going to give you a pretty significant bump in frame rates on video games compared to, say, a Core i7 8565U. And never having run Fortnite or Rocket League on that part, I now want to fire up Rocket League or Fortnite on a Core i7, and just so I can see what the real frame rates on that. But, well, let me qualify that. They were talking about 60 frames per second.
No, I mean, yeah, in the interest of science. Okay, all right. So with modest detail settings at lower resolutions, okay. I mean, I don't want you to do that to yourself, but at the same time, it's a valuable information. It's a good data point to have.
But it was funny because I have not bothered to, except for sort of, whatever the PC equivalent of Lumini Town. You know what I mean? Like, I play simple phone level games on my laptops most of the time because I don't have a discrete GPU in my laptop. But the idea of being able to play like Rocket League at 60 frames per second, that's kind of compelling, but it also makes me want to know exactly what the frame rates that are coming out of the Intel parts, if they're comparing them to. Let me be clear. we're not talking about 1080p. We're not talking about probably even medium detail. You're talking probably fairly low resolution, fairly low settings. You are going to want a discrete chipset of some type if you are going to do mobile gaming, which, by the way,
Sure,
they announced the mobile. NVIDIA announced the mobile versions of, I want to say, the 2080, the 2070, and the 2060. So it's I think we figured out I think they said there were 40 NVIDIA, mobile NVIDIA RTX powered gaming laptops that were announced just at this show. So it's not a bad time to be buying a gaming laptop.
No, and then one more quick point on Ryzen Mobile. I was just thinking about. Don't forget the whole mini PC space. Well, yeah, that too. But I've been looking at mini PCs for years, and one of the arguments was always like, "Oh, I wish we could put an APU in this. I wish there was an APU from the commenters, from the readers." And this is a great opportunity for that too, because you get one of these lower powered parts that can fit in one of those really small form factors, or even a fanless solution, and you have significantly more graphics horsepower than you would in any of the current Intel integrated solutions. So that's an interesting possibility as well.